Hello, Rob White here to explain how to create your own report form. Just a note for Texas inspectors, at this time the TREC form cannot be changed as part of the form is hard-coded into Interspec so that we can map it exactly as the state of Texas requires. We are looking to see if we can put the first two pages into the template notes so you can modify it and the report layout as Texas comes out with new changes. You can create report forms for things like phased inspections, as TREC does not require their form to be used. So let's take a look at creating a report form. The report form is located by going to Settings and then clicking on the Report Types tab. On the left side of the screen are tabs that you can pin open. I recommend clicking on Report Type and then click the pin to keep it open, so you can see what report forms have been created. So here you see report types. I have it pinned open. You may also want to open settings and keep it pinned open so you can select the different settings if you need to move between them. At the bottom of the report types panel is where you can add, copy, export, delete, and import report types. Now this is very important, so you may want to make note of this. The report is made of two parts, one being the report form, which is what we're going to work on in this video, and the second is the template that you create using this report form. That would be under inspection templates. The report form defines the major systems and the inspection items under each system and the order in which they will print. Templates are created using the report form that may have different information notes hard-coded, like one for new homes versus an older home. Keep in mind, you cannot delete a template that has an inspection created with that template. Otherwise, Interspec would not be able to open older reports that you may have. So while you're designing your report form and creating a template for that report form to test, make sure you delete any test inspections using that template. Then you can delete the template and create a new one after you've modified your report form using the same name. I'll go into this with further details later in this video. The first step in creating a new report form is to lay out your major systems and each inspection item under those systems, similar to this. Here I've laid out my major systems: lots and grounds, exterior components, roof report, interior components, my plumbing systems, appliances, heating and cooling, electrical, and structural. And under each of these, I've then laid out my inspection items associated with each of my major systems. Once you have defined your requirements, you can get started on creating your report form. There are two tabs under report types. One is definition, and the other is layout. In this video, we're going to be discussing definition only, and we'll look at the layout in another video. To add a new report type, we're going to go to the bottom of the report types panel and we're going to click add. This will open up a blank report type. Report type is, what am I going to call this report? So in this case, I'm going to create one for a California inspector, and he's part of CREA. So I'm just going to label this as CREA. Now you have some decisions to make. Do I want to use a system number format and an inspection item format? We've given you a number of values that you can use: Roman numeral uppercase, Roman numeral lowercase, or alphanumeric uppercase and alphanumeric lowercase, or you can just specify none. And what this does is it places in this case, if I select the uppercase, it's going to place a Roman numeral ahead of my system name. And the same for inspection number format. Since I use Roman numeral for my system, I may want to use alphanumeric for my inspection item numbers. Another decision you have to make is, do I want to use checkboxes? If you decide after you create this report form that you don't want to use checkboxes, then you can come in and edit the form and uncheck this. You would have to create a new template in order to test it. Now, if you don't use checkboxes, then report validation will not work. Report validation works off of two fields. One is going to be, in this case, I have inspected selected to make sure that I did check every item inspected on the report. And the second item it checks is which one of these status boxes do I have labeled as my problem area. And therefore the validation would go through, and it found any issues in my report, it would validate that I did check my status box 4, that it wasn't functioning or in need of repair. If you use the check boxes, then I'm going to go through and define each of my check boxes. And again, I want to try to keep my labels fairly short. So instead of repair, I might mark this as deficient. We've given you 6 status boxes to define different variables. You may want to set up a maintenance, and maybe one for safety issues. And maybe for these status boxes, I want to mark my deficient in red, my maintenance items in green, and my safety issues, I'll make those yellow. So when the report prints, those status boxes will print in these colors. Now you will define your major systems and each inspection item under those major systems by the worksheet you created earlier. By my list, I will go through and create the system labels and voice labels. If you tab as you enter your system name, it will create the voice label for you automatically. I recommend keeping the voice label to no more than 3 words, otherwise it becomes harder to remember. After you've created your systems, you can rearrange them by using the up and down arrow located here on the right side of the pane if you want them in a different order. To create a major system name, click Add, and I'm going to start at the beginning of my list. My first one is Lots and Grounds. When I hit the Tab key, you'll see that my voice label also became Lots and Grounds. I now want to create my inspection items for Lots and Grounds. So I'm going to click Add. My first inspection item in my list was Walks and Driveways. I'll keep my voice label as Walks and Driveways. Global Photo category, under Settings within Introspect, we have a tab called Global Photos. Global Photos allows you to import drawings or JPEG images similar to what Carson Dunlap produces with Home Illustrated, and you can import those into Introspect. When you create an inspection item, you can associate, when I click on Walks and Driveways, to only pull up global photos that were assigned to a category under Global Photos. So in this case, we don't have a category called Walks and Driveways, so I select Other, and that's where I would have stored any images associated with Walks and Driveways. The next set of checkboxes are room placeholders, and you'll notice we have one for the attic, basement, bathroom, bedroom, common areas, exterior, garage, kitchen, living areas, utility, and one called additional. When you're doing room-by-room inspections, each of these placeholders is where you're going to create a room. And when you create that room, any inspection item that we have assigned to that room will be listed. So since my walks and driveways are on the exterior, I'm going to check my exterior box. That way when I'm start an inspection and I'm in room by room, I'm going to create a new room called exterior, and when I do, this item is going to appear in that list to be inspected. So for time's sake, I'm going to go through and put all of these in, enter all of my systems and my inspection items, and when I finish, we'll come back to the video. Okay, I finished up lots and grounds, and you're going to notice that I've checked a number of these with the additional box, under additional rather than on my exterior. The reason I do this is every home I inspect may not have an irrigation system. Every home I inspect may not have a swimming pool or a retaining wall. So by placing it with additional, this is going to add it to an additional room item list. I can add it on the fly if I'm inspecting a home that has one of these items. I don't want to see it in the list when I'm doing the inspection if it's not in the majority of homes that I'm inspecting. If the majority of homes that you inspect do have irrigation systems, then you may want to check this as on the exterior and not as additional. Just depends on your locale and what you find is most common in your area. Every home doesn't have a swimming pool. I may not want to see it in my room every time I do a home inspection, but this gives me the option of adding it. So I'm going to finish up and go ahead and add the rest of my systems at this point and the inspection items, and we'll come back after I put this in. Now the final thing you want to think about is whether or not you want to use the attribute field. Type attributes allow you to select a value by a checkbox, like foundations may have attributes defined for what type of foundation. Is it a slab on grade? Is it post-tension? Is it rebar, pier and beam? These types would print right after the major system name on the report. So either by manually checking them or using voice by saying foundations are slab on grade, I can select the foundation type. Or instead of using the attribute field, I could just create a quick text to add a comment explaining the type of foundation that we view. Attributes are defined as single or multiple, meaning do I have just one attribute like foundation type or multiples like walks and driveways, where I want to define values for each. Let's take a quick look at an inspection that's already set up. Here you'll see I have foundations. In my type attributes, I have a single level foundation type, and under this I've defined the variables of slab on grade, post tension, pier and beam, or an unknown. Or I can define a multiple type attribute, like I have under water supply, where I have a supply valve and the variables of where it's located, and my second multiple is meter location and a list of variables. So for my career report, let's go down and we're going to add a couple of attributes. We'll go ahead and define a couple for my walks and driveways. So in the lower left corner, you'll see an attribute button. And when I click that, it's going to open up a new panel for you to enter your new type attributes. So we're going to click on Add. We're going to define whether it's a single or multiple. So my walks and driveways, I'm going to go ahead and create a multiple. My label on this one will be walks. My voice label can also be walks, makes it simple. Define a new group or look in the list to see if I already have a walks and driveway group defined, which I do. I have my walks, so I will select walks, and then I'm going to add values to walks. And since I've already done this before, this opens up a panel very similar to when you're adding your cities and states and zip codes. It allows you to add the variables to this list. So I've already created my concrete, paver, stone, brick, and wood. So this will be your values that are available to be selected for your type attribute walks. I'll go ahead and add another type attribute. We're going to call this one driveways. I will add another type attribute. Again, it's going to be a multiple, since we're adding 2 to this inspection item. I'm going to call it driveways. Again, we'll look and see if we have a group defined, which I've already defined this. And then we would come in and add our variables. And I've added the concrete, paver, stone, and gravel. Once I've created my variables, we'll close this. And then let's go select structural report, and we'll add one for foundations. So I select inspection item foundations, click my attributes, click add. This one is going to be a single. My type attribute will be foundations. We'll look and see if we have a foundation type and what values we have specified for this. So you would go through each of your inspection items and decide whether or not you want an attribute list for those, or if you just want to use comments. So this finishes the report form definition. Again, we'll get into the layout in another video. Once I have finished the definition, I want to create a template for this. So now that I've finished my report definition, I want to create a template and take a look and see how my report is going to look. So we select inspection templates. Again, you've got your available tabs on the left side if your inspection template is not open, and I'll close this down. Look for inspection templates and pin it open. This is going to show you what templates that you have created. I now want to create one for my new report form, CREA. So under inspection template panel, we click new. My template name, I'm going to call this CREA version 1, and that's to associate with the report form that I created is also still version 1. Report type, I'm going to select my new Creo report type, and I'm going to call the template name Creo version 1. We click OK, and you'll notice that it created the new template. Here's my lots and grounds with all of my inspection items, exterior components. So this should match up to what you created with the form. And just like with the other templates, I can come in and put some headers and footers on each of the major systems, or in the inspection items, I could enter hard code some information pertaining to each of these inspection items that I want always printed in the report. So since I've created my template, let's go open an inspection and see what it looks like. I will come in and say New. Since I have my default set to a different template, I can come into General Information and now select my new report that I just created. So I'm going to select Creo. And we'll go to Inspection Items. Again, I have my default set up to come in up in room by room mode. If I go and take a look at my system mode, this is the order that the report's going to print. You'll see it's in the same order that I created. Here's a list of my major systems. And here's a list of the inspection items underneath each of those systems. Over here you'll see the type attribute. Remember, I created the walks and driveways. I created a multi-level type attribute, one for driveways, one for walks. Here's the available values that I have for each one of those. Same way with my structural report, I created a single level for foundation components. Here's my foundations and my type attributes for foundations. If I go to room by room mode and I create a new room, remember when I set this up, each of the check boxes that I had checked off when I created inspection items as to where those would fall in a room by room, if you go and look, every item, my exterior walls, I had set up as exterior. So each of these items that I had marked as being under exterior, they're all going to show up as items that need to be inspected for this particular room. If I create a kitchen, then I had those inspection items check marked to show up for each of these rooms also. Here's all of my appliances. So you'll want to go through and make sure that when you create a form and a template, then you'll want to open up an inspection and verify that you have everything in the right place. The other item that you want to look at is, when we talked about the additional room items, that last checkbox is where we can add additional inspection items to a room. And let's go back to exterior. Let's say our electrical service panel was on the outside of the home. Well, currently in this list, we do not have the electrical service panel. So either by voice or by manual, I could say add additional item, and I can come in and look at my additional items, and here's my electrical panel components, or whatever you called it when you defined it. So I could say add additional item, electrical panel components, or I can come in and manually select this and add it to the room, and when I do that, I now have it listed as an item to be inspected on my exterior. If the electrical panel happened to be in the garage, then I can do the same thing. Since it's not listed here, again, I can either come in by voice or by manually selecting it. So you'll want to verify that everything you marked as additional is showing up in the list of where you want it. There's my service entrance, or whatever you want to call it. I can add it to the room, and now it's in that room to be inspected. Makes it very convenient when you're walking through the home, especially with voice, to be able to add these to whatever room that you find these items in, rather than having them hard-coded to be there and then having to check it that it wasn't present. So that finishes up creating the report form and creating your template. Keep in mind, since I've created this inspection at this point, in order to delete that template, let's say something's missing on this and I have to go back and change my report form and create a new template, I don't want to leave the old template out there. I want to get rid of it so it's not cluttering up my list of available templates that can be used. While I'm testing these, I want to get rid of it. So if I come in and say delete, you're going to get a message that the template's used by one or more inspections and may not be deleted. The reason for this is this prevents a template that's being used from being deleted. If you have to go back and regenerate an inspection report, if it can't find the template, then it cannot regenerate that report. So that's why we prevent you from deleting the template. So in test mode, while you're building these report forms and templates, all you have to do is go back to that inspection that you created for testing purposes, select it, delete it, and now you can go back to settings. I can now select that template, delete it. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to delete it? You say yes. Now it's no longer in the list. I can go back to my report types, select my CREA, and make any changes that I need to it. Now let's say you were using that template and you had created a number of inspections. And after 4 or 5 inspections, you realized that you wanted to either rearrange the order or add an item or add an additional item that you may have missed. When you come back in and you've left that other template, you're going to have to leave that template out there for those reports that you created. When you come back in and select the CREA, since I've deleted this template, it's not showing it right now, but if the other template remains, then you're going to have to click Edit here. That's going to create a new version of this report form. You would make your changes, and then you would go create a new template. And again, you may want to keep it in sync with whatever version that you've created for your template name, so you'll know what they match up to. So this finishes up the report definition layout and creating a template. In the next video, we will look at the layout. If you have any questions in designing a report, please do not hesitate to give us a call, and we look forward to talking with you. Thank you.